Hello everybody, welcome back to another Python coding tutorial. This video is our third functions practice video where we're going to use functions and loops to calculate the falling distance of an object and then output that into a table. Okay, so I have the instructions written out here for this program and I'm going to go ahead and read those and then we can determine what it is that we'll need to do for the program. Alright, the instructions say to create a program that will calculate the falling distance of an object over time. The equation that can be used to determine this distance is distance equals 1/2 times g times time squared, where g is the value of 9.81 and if time is in seconds, the distance would be given in meters. Within this program, you will create a main function and a function that will calculate distance. The distance function will simply take a time as an argument and return the distance, not output. Within the main function, you will create a loop that will repeatedly call the distance function and get each return value. You will report the distance of fall for each values of time from 1 to 10 seconds. Output this in a neat table. Okay, now that we've read the instructions, we can begin writing the program. So the first thing that I want to do is create the main function. So I'm going to say def main. Now all of our main code is going to be inside of this function. And then after that, what I want to do is write a print statement telling the user what the program is going to be doing. So I'm going to say print, this program will calculate the falling distance of an object over an amount of time. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to print the headings for our table. Those are going to be outside of our loop because we don't want the headings to reprint with each iteration of the loop. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say print. Then I'm going to use an F string. I'm going to have time, seconds here. And then that's what's going to print over here. Then what I want to do is I want to tab over 2 times, which will give our table headings a nice and neat space between the two. Then I want to print out the distance. So distance. And I want to say meters for that one. Now giving the units is just a way to keep our table nice and neat. Okay, and that's everything that we need to do to print out the table headings. Now what I want to do is I want to create our loop. So I'm going to say for time in range. And for the range here, we want it to be 1 to 11. And that's because we really want the seconds from 1 to 10. So 11 isn't included in the end of our range here. Okay, and then in this loop, we have to call our calculate distance function with each iteration of the loop. And that's because we want to get the total distance fallen at each number of seconds, 1 through 10. So I'm going to create the variable total distance. And then I'm going to set that equal to, when we call the calculate distance function, with the time as the argument, whatever is returned from this function is going to be equal to the total distance. Now what I want to do is I want to create another F string that's going to create each output for the table for each time input. Okay, so this is going to print the values within the table. So I'm going to say print F. Then for neatness, again, I'm going to tab over. Then I want the time variable to print, not the word time. Then I'm going to tab over twice. Then I want the total distance variable to print. And I want that to print to 2 decimal places, just so that, again, our table looks neat. And then that's all that we need for our values in the table to print. Okay, now the last thing that we need to do in this loop is that make sure the time variable increments by 1. So we want to say time plus equals 1. And that'll make sure it increases by 1 with each iteration of the loop. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to create our calculate distance function. So to do this, I need to exit the main function. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say def calculate distance. And then with the time argument. Okay, so now we have to create the gravity variable. So I'm going to say gravity equals 9.81. And they told us that, where g is the value of 9.81. Okay, and we do this inside of this function, because if we did it up outside the main function, then that would be considered a global variable, and that's not very good coding practice. Now I want to use the gravity variable and the time variable to calculate the total distance, using our formula that was provided up here. Okay, so I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say distance equals float to make sure that our variable stays afloat. Okay, and then I want to say 1/2 times gravity times time. And now we have to square time. And the way that we do that is we do the times asterisk, and we do that 2 times. And then we do a 2. Okay, and now the final thing that we need to do for this function is just return the distance. So return distance. Okay, at this point we've done everything that we need to do for these two functions, and now all I have to do is call the main function. So as always, we do if name equals main, then we want to call the main function. And what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that we call our main function and not a different one. Okay, now that should be it for this program. The last thing that I want to do is test it out and make sure that everything runs correctly. So I'm going to go run the program. All right, so we got the introduction here, and then we got the time in seconds, and then the distance in meters. We have 1 through 10 for the seconds, and then each distance that changes corresponding to each of those seconds. All right, so I would say that everything looks good here, and that is great. Okay, that's it for this program, and that's going to be it for this video then. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. This was our third functions practice video, and stay tuned, I'm going to have more Python coding practices and tutorials coming out soon. So if you enjoyed this one, be sure to watch those. Thank you for watching.